Give your savings for my baby. I emptied the account and flew away. I never thought a single sentence could split my life cleanly in two, but there it was, hurled across my own dining table like a grenade. Give your savings for my baby. My daughter-in-law Marissa said it with the confidence of someone asking for the salt. No shame, no hesitation, just an expectation, almost a demand. And in that moment, as my son stared down at his hands and refused to meet my eyes, I realized something chilling. They had already decided the answer for me. One, the request that wasn't a request. It was a warm Tuesday afternoon. I'd invited them over for lunch because I'd been feeling sentimental, missing the old days when my son, Leo, would swing by after work just to chat. But ever since he'd married Marissa, visits came with purpose, usually financial. Still, I cooked his favorite garlic chicken with lemon butter and set the table nicely. I'd even bought a tiny mint plant to decorate the center, something homey, something grounding. Marissa didn't bother with greetings. She pushed aside the mint plant as if it were clutter and leaned forward, her hands folded neatly. Since the baby will be here in 4 months, she began, we need help, serious help, and Leo says you have savings. I looked at my son, he swallowed hard. Mom, we're really tight right now. You're always tight, I thought, but kept my voice gentle. How much help are we talking about? Marissa smiled, and it wasn't the grateful kind. All of it. My stomach dropped, all of it meaning what exactly? Your retirement money, she said, eyes locked on mine. The whole account, the baby needs a future. To the silent partner. Leo wouldn't look up. He'd always been soft-hearted, easily swayed, and painfully afraid of conflict. I used to think it made him gentle. Now, watching him shrink beside his wife, I wondered if it made him something else entirely. Mom, he muttered, we just really need this. The apartment's too small and the baby stuff is expensive, and Marissa can't work right now. She can't work, Marissa repeated, holding her belly as if anyone had questioned her. So you can help us instead. It should have made me angry, it should have made me defensive, but mostly it made me tired. I'd spent 40 years teaching primary school, saving every spare cent, imagining slow mornings with tea, books, and maybe travel. But since Leo married Marissa, I'd helped them with rent, car troubles, credit card payments, and once, their anniversary trip because we deserve something nice. I never minded supporting my son, but this wasn't help. This was extraction. 3. The breaking point. Marissa, I said calmly, I'm happy to help, but my savings aren't infinite, I still need to live. Her expression hardened. Why, you're old enough, just settle down, you don't need vacations or hobbies, the baby comes first. My baby is sitting next to you, I said sharply, nodding at Leo, and I raised him without draining anyone dry. She scoffed, different times, things are harder now, so be a good mother and hand it over. Something inside me snapped, not loudly but cleanly like the quiet break of thin glass. I stood slowly. I'll think about it, I said because I needed them gone. Marissa smirked like she'd already won. Take your time, tomorrow should be fine. When they left without helping clear a single dish, the house felt cavernous. I washed the plates, dried the countertop, and sat down in the quiet living room staring at the mint plant Marissa had shoved aside. Its leaves looked fragile, bent from the rough handling. I whispered, why am I letting this happen? No answer came, but in the silence a truth settled over me like a falling curtain. If I stayed, they would drain me until nothing was left. Not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, completely. And for the first time in my life, I let myself ask a forbidden question. What if I did something for myself instead? For the decision. That night I opened my retirement account online. The numbers stared back at me, the last tangible evidence of every extra shift, every weekend tutoring session, every time I'd said no to something so I could say yes later. I imagined handing it all over. I imagined the entitlement in Marissa's eyes. I imagined Leo's silence. And then shockingly, I imagined something else. The coastline of Portugal. The bright markets of Seoul. The gardens in Kyoto I'd always dreamed of seeing. All the places I'd postponed for later. What if later was now? The thought electrified me. I didn't sleep. Instead, I made a plan. 5. The escape. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. Birds were still whispering. The air felt lighter than I'd ever remembered. I brewed tea, I sat at the table, and then calmly I emptied the account. Not to give it to them, but to move it to a private international account linked to a travel service that handled long-term stays. By 10 a.m., I had booked a 6-month apartment rental overlooking the ocean in Madeira, Portugal. By noon, I bought my plane ticket. By evening, I had a packed suitcase beside the door. My phone buzzed constantly, texts from Marissa escalating in tone. Have you decided? Leo says you're being dramatic. You're going to ruin your relationship with your grandchild. You owe us this. I turned the phone face down. For the first time in years, I owed no one anything. 6. The airport. I didn't tell them I was leaving. I didn't leave a note. I just took a cab to the airport at dawn, watching my neighborhood blur past, feeling unrecognizably weightless. At the terminal, I bought a simple breakfast and sat by the window. When the sun rose over the runway, it felt like a second life beginning. My phone buzzed again, this time with Leo's name. My heart clenched. I loved him, I would always love him. But I also loved myself, and I had forgotten that for far too long. I answered. Mom, his voice was small, confused. Marissa says you're not responding, she wants the money today. I know, I said softly. So are you going to do it? I closed my eyes. No, sweetheart, I'm not. Silence. Then he whispered, she's really mad. I imagine so. What should I tell her? I took a deep breath, the kind that fills new lungs. Tell her, I said gently, that your mother is done funding her life. More silence. You're really leaving, aren't you? He said quietly. I froze, leaving. I tracked the card, he said, the ticket charge. A pause. Mom, why? Because I couldn't watch myself disappear anymore. Because he never protected me from her entitlement. Because I deserved a piece of the world before I died. But all I said was, because I need to live a little, Leo. I heard him exhale shakily, will you come back? When I'm ready. Can I visit? I smiled, a real warm smile. Yes. Sweetheart, if you come alone. Another long silence, but this one felt different, something thoughtful, something shifting. Okay, he said softly, I love you, Mom. I love you too. I hung up. And I boarded the plane. 7. A new life. Madeira was sunlight and salt breeze and landscapes so beautiful they felt unreal. My apartment had a little balcony with a crooked table that wobbled when I set down my morning coffee. I loved it instantly. I walked along the cliffs, tasted food I couldn't pronounce, spoke terrible Portuguese to patient shopkeepers, and every night watched the sun melt into the ocean. For the first time in decades, my days belonged to me. My heart belonged to me. My life belonged to me. I sent Leo photos, he sent back simple messages. Proud of you. Hope you're happy. Baby kicked today. Not once did he ask for money again. Marissa never texted. I suspected she was furious. Maybe she'd expected me to crawl back, wallet open, but I didn't, and eventually Leo stopped mentioning her altogether. Soon his messages came signed only with his name. Not we. Just Leo. 8. The final message. 6 months later, as I was planning a train trip through Italy, I received the message that made my breath catch. Mom, I left her. I couldn't keep choosing her over everyone else, especially you. Baby is due next week. I'd like you here if you want. I stared at my phone, the ocean murmuring outside my window. This was the moment I had been waiting for without realizing it. My son had finally found his own spine. I wrote back. I'll be on the next flight. 9. Coming home on my own terms. When I landed back home, he was there waiting, eyes tired but clearer than I'd seen in years. He hugged me tight. You look happy, Mom. I am, I said. And when I held my newborn grandchild a week later, a tiny girl named Mara, I didn't feel bitterness or fear of being used again. I felt full. Not because I'd given everything away, but because, for the first time, I hadn't.